Oh, we are up and going and things are happening already. What's up, nerds? It is another live stream. We are talking news. We are talking things and stuff. We're talking about the shirt that I'm wearing. For those of you that don't know, that's what it looks like. I'm not going to stand up and do the whole thing, but there it is. Yeah! I love this shirt. You can find that on the merch store, link down in the description. I'm a big fan. I created this design, and I hope you like it as well. You should. If you want something a little more subtle, there's stuff up there for that too. Also, before we get into the things and the stuff, we have the sponsor, the channel partner, DUBBY. DUBBY.gg is the website. Code Generally Nerdy at checkout is how you get your 10% off. You can go get stuff and things, and DUBBY just does really good stuff. We've talked about it a lot recently. I'm really not in the mood to push it too hard, so if you like it, go get it. Use code Generally Nerdy, 10% off. Behind the scenes, this is going to be our last regularly scheduled stream on this schedule-ish, as close to a schedule as we've been in a long time, because tomorrow I start my new job, so I really don't know what the next few weeks look like. I will try and be good about announcing the streams on the socials. So if you're not following Generally Nerdy on Twitter and or Instagram, then you should maybe go do that. I guess I mostly announce it on Twitter when it gets announced properly. I don't do a whole lot of the announcing on the Instagram, unfortunately, but I will get better about it as things start to settle. Now that I have a job, things will start to settle, I promise. What else is behind the scenes? I don't think there's much else behind the scenes. We have Mortal Kombat coming out in 2 days, so we will be talking about that. My anticipation video will be up tomorrow. That is a given. Also, the Michael Jackson movie review will be up tomorrow as well. And I think we have some clips that are going. All of that's going on the clips channel because it's already up here on the main channel. So if you want to do that, it's just 2 streams ago that we talked about that stuff. But yeah, the clips channel will see that stuff. There will be a couple more clips getting posted here soon. Yeah, that's all we got for housekeeping, man. Let's talk about the news. That button. Get a little bit more volume on those tunes, shall we? It's honestly as slow of a news day as it was for the last stream. It's equally as slow, I think, this time around. So let's just jump right into this Mandalorian and Grogu estimated box office. This one has me a little sad. Actually, both of the headline bits have me a little sad, but we'll get there. So, first up, we have Mandalorian and Grogu is now tracking for 80 million on a 4-day weekend rather. So, Memorial Day is opening weekend for Mandalorian, and 80 million for the entire 4-day weekend. That is not good. A big drop from earlier long-range tracking, which floated a possible 90 to 100 million domestic opening. He said that at the time the number looked overly optimistic, especially based on the softer audience tracking ticket sales appeared to show. That's fair. Estimate looks a lot closer to reality. I really hope that this is a good enough movie to exceed the expectations. I really hope that they got Kathleen Kennedy out of the way enough that Jon Favreau could really cook. Chef pun intended there, because I really feel like if he's left to his own devices, then good things will happen, as we've seen time and time again. So, like, I don't understand why we have to just get in his way as much as we do. Anyway, continuing on with the article. If Mandalorian and Grogu opens to 80 million plus across the 4-day holiday frame, that would make the lowest opening Star Wars movie ever. Ever. The current low belongs to Solo, a Star Wars story, which opened at 103 million over its 4-day Memorial weekend back in 2018. Solo went on to become one of the biggest disappointments in the history of the franchise, so that's not a comparison Disney and Lucasfilm want. That is very true. The Solo movie is not worth your time if you've not seen it. Aside from a really cool cameo from Darth Maul. That's about it. For a brand that once dominated the box office, opening below Solo would be rough return to theaters. That is 100% true. So after tracking, I think we talked about this in an episode like a week or two ago, how it's not really picking up in the pre-sales for whatever reason. We have lower estimate also fits with the softer audience awareness we recently covered. The Mandalorian and Grogu had an awareness score of 47 and an interest score of 48, which did not exactly scream $100 million opening. By comparison, Mortal Kombat 2 had a higher awareness score of 50 and an interest score of 52, and while still being estimated much lower. I really hope Mortal Kombat does better than that too, but that's just me. That made the original $100 million forecast look high from the start. It also matched what we saw when checking pre-sale seats on Fandango, where plenty of theaters still had lots of empty seats for Thursday previews and Friday opening day. Disney and Lucasfilm are not sitting back. IMAX and Lucasfilm are holding a special May 4th fan event, which was yesterday. IMAX theaters around the world giving fans 25 minutes of never-before-seen footage from The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's cool. I kind of wish I had known about that, but I don't know if there was a theater close enough to me to make a difference. So yeah, we have a low estimate for opening. Pardon me while I get my lubrication for my talking thing. Mandalorian Grogu, 80 million. Oh, I really hope it exceeds that. I mean, it's Memorial Day. It's got Baby Yoda, so I feel like, I don't know, man. I think there's going to be more to it than just that, but I don't know explicitly. Where are we going? What was the other big one? I don't even remember. I really don't remember. What was the other big story? Where'd the thumbnail go? Oh yeah. That's a weird one. We'll get to that in a second. We're not gonna go straight there. Because that one I don't know if I really fully understand it myself, but we're gonna go over it and we'll try and help each other out, right? That's it. Let's get a little horror movie news. This one we've been sitting on for a couple weeks at this point, but it's not happening right now, so it's okay that we sat on it. Nicholas Winding Refn, new Maniac Cop, is finally set to stalk the streets. Maniac Cop, those who don't know, horror movie franchise from the mid-'80s, very mediocre. Back on duty, and audiences will again have the right to remain silent forever. Cameras are reportedly ready to roll a new Maniac Cop film from Neon Demon director Nicholas Winding Refn after many stops and starts over the years. This comes from an inside source that couldn't be more intimately tied to the property. Excuse me. The director of the original, William Lustig. Lustig told Icons of Fright recently via Bloody Disgusting, quote, Nick has it as his next project that will shoot in the fall. The filmmaker, whose career was minted during the 80s slasher boom, also elaborated on why the reboot went sideways as a TV series. And we talked about this, it was like 2 years ago, I think, when that happened. It all boils down to the controversial merger that's been grinding gears for half a decade. What happened with HBO was HBO got sold to Discovery, and Discovery, after they'd spent over $1 million developing the scripts for the series, Discovery says, we're not in the Maniac Cop business, Lustig explained. They gave all the scripts back to us, so we didn't have to pay a turnaround, so that was it with HBO. Now it's moving ahead, and I can't announce the company, but it will become known. That's pretty dang cool, honestly. Lustig added that the project is, because like the fact that they just gave it back, they didn't try and hold on to it for more money, like that's relatively admirable of Warner Brothers. Lustig added that the project is something Refn has wanted to get out of his system. It's sort of like one of these things that's bouncing around in your head and you want to just get it out. I think Nick is at that point. The thing had so many fits and starts, it's moving ahead and expected to start shooting in the fall, he said. Original Maniac Cop was produced by blah, 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 blah. We don't care about all of the history necessarily. We just want the news. Oh, yeah, we'll get this one. This one we've been sitting on for a minute, too. I can't honestly remember exactly what it is. Oh, yeah, I do remember what it is now. Here we go. Studio Canal developing Escape from New York and Howling reimaginings, two classic 80s movies, and now... the fuck? 80s nostalgia had more than its day It's been an entire era culminating in hit shows like Stranger Things and its disappointing climax. Yeah. Still, the phenomenon won't die. As long as major studios and independent producers think they can mine the decade for something, the craze will stay on life support. There's a challenge that goes along with keeping the engine running when some IPs in the Reagan era are harder to bring back than others. Two of those, for various reasons, are Escape from New York and The Howling, but French company Studio Canal believes they are up to the task. They announced at CinemaCon last week that they are moving forward with plans to adopt the cult classics for a new generation. But will it work? That is the question. All right. So the thing about Escape from New York, I honestly haven't seen The Howling recently enough to speak eloquently on the Howling situation. So maybe that one will work. But Escape from New York worked as well as it did at the time. Not that it was, obviously it's a cult hit. It's not really a box office smasher, but at the time it worked because Kurt Russell was kind of a dude, right? Also, it was writing. There was a whole lot of sci-fi stuff in the 80s, and it was relatively better than the rest as far as like its execution of its sci-fi ideas. And it had something smart to say for a social commentary. And then you fast forward a couple of years to Escape from LA, and you see it's all of the same pieces, but a different picture, and it just didn't work the same. So it had already lost that headway just a few years later. So now that we're like 40 years past it now, I really don't know if it's going to work. Anyway, let's continue on. Excuse me. They announced at CinemaCon last week, so 3 weeks ago, that they were moving forward with plans to adopt both cult classics for a new generation. What's more, they want to go back to square one with full-blown reimaginings that will surely go darker than before, which could translate in the end to sucking out all the life and satire of the originals for utterly cynical takes. Yes, that seems to track. No filmmakers, writers, or actors are mentioned in the announcement, so no creative team is attached as of yet. This means Studio Canal's intentions start with a bold proclamation to flex with, while nothing might ultimately come of it. That's also a very sad truth in modern day filmmaking, is that, these filmmakers and these production houses get these crazy ideas and they want to do big, huge things. I'm looking at you, Kathleen Kennedy, and then they don't do enough to generate hype, or they just don't have the money they thought they were going to get, or XYZ reasons, and we don't actually end up getting said movie. Which, in this case, I think might not be a horrible thing, because, again, looking at you, Kathleen Kennedy, at this stage, we can only wish them luck in an uphill battle. Escape has been a tough egg to crack for many years. 81, John Carpenter film is still considered untouchable and one of the top essentials in Carpenter's career. Beyond that, it's forced rehash of a sequel, Escape from LA. See, these are the things we just talked about. And the realms of video games and comics, every attempt at a remake spun its wheels until they burned out. Yep. All right, so, and then the rest of it's just going to get into details that we've kind of already hashed out. So we're just going to skip past that, and we're going to go to the other big piece that is also weird and sad for different reasons. Let's free up some RAM real quick. Hold that thought, please. Oh, hi. Just now looking at chat. Howdy. All right, so our other big piece here is GameStop. This is weird, and we're going to get into the weeds a little bit. Okay, so the long and the short of it, before we get into the article, the long and the short of it is GameStop, who, if you'll remember a few years ago, had the stonks fiasco in the stock market where it was getting short sold, I think is the proper term, because people were expecting it to continue to go down. And I don't 100% remember exactly how that works because I don't do stock, but because people kept buying the stock for GameStop and kept raising its value, that was a bad thing for people who had bought in on the short sell. because they wanted it to short out and go down because somehow that made them money. I can't remember exactly the details because I'm not a stock guy, but that's kind of the loose idea. Well, the company itself seems to have invested what it maintained from the stonks situation, but they're still valued at like $9 billion, I think. And now they're putting in an offer to purchase eBay, unsolicited. eBay's not for sale. They're putting in an offer to purchase eBay. eBay, which is valued at $44 billion, roughly. I may not be remembering these numbers exactly, but it's a lot more. So the big company is being proposed to be bought out by the little company, because that makes sense. And at first it sounded like they were just trying to generate more meme situation, but now they have officially put a bid in, and that's, I think, where we're at with this article. So let's read, because this is so crazy. In the latest shocking news surrounding the video game world, GameStop announced a buyout offer for eBay for $55 billion in hopes of creating, quote, a legitimate competitor to Amazon, unquote. So that's not the valuation. The $55 billion is not the valuation. That's what they're offering. So that's over their market value. In a news release posted on May 3rd, GameStop Corporation announced they are proposing to acquire 100% of eBay at $125 per share. The move would give video game retailer the ability to control a decades-old online marketplace where people buy and sell collectibles, apparel, and so many other items. According to CBS News, GameStop's CEO Ryan Cohen said in a letter to eBay's chairman of the board that it has received a commitment from TD Securities to contribute $20 billion to help fund the deal. Wow. On May 4th, eBay confirmed that it received an unsolicited, non-binding acquisition proposal from GameStop. According to the statement, the board will, quote, review this proposal with a focus on the value to be delivered to eBay shareholders, including the value of the GameStop stock consideration and the ability of GameStop to deliver a binding, actionable proposal, unquote. Wall Street Journal was the first to cover this news and reported that Cohen is prepared to launch a hostile bid if eBay rejects the deal. eBay could be a, quote, legit competitor to Amazon. Also, quote, eBay should be worth and will be worth a lot more money, he continued, and I'm thinking about turning eBay into something worth hundreds of billions of dollars. All right. There's a fundamental difference in the way that eBay and Amazon function. eBay has, theoretically, I mean, in practice, it doesn't really function like this as much anymore, but it does. There is still an element of you have individual people, not like sellers or small companies or small businesses or whatever, like you have on Amazon, because Amazon theoretically has individual people too, but it's a very different situation. You have anybody can sell on eBay. Anybody can sell on eBay. Not really the case with Amazon. You got to jump through a few more hoops in order to sell on Amazon. So, like, you have fundamentally, like, they cover similar ground, but there's a lot more brand new items on Amazon than on eBay, and the stuff on eBay theoretically is not coming directly from the distributor. Even if it is brand new, it's not brand new in that you're getting it direct from the distributor. I'm sure there are some distributors on there, but like the general rule of thumb, I'm painting with a very broad brush right now. General rule of thumb is it's not direct from wherever it was made or whatever company manufactured, the X, Y, and Z, right? So we have two distinct, though similar, business models, and he's trying to make it the bigger competitor, a legitimate quote unquote competitor to Amazon. I feel like there's a lot of ground there to be covered before that can really be a thing. And is GameStop, the company that's been slowly going out of business since I worked there 28 years ago? Oh, I'm old. they've been slowly closing stores ever since then, and it's kind of only picked up speed in recent years. That company is proposing to make eBay a competitor to Amazon. That just sounds ridiculous. Anyway, continuing on. In an interview with CNBC, Cohen said GameStop could issue more stock to help pay for the proposed buyout. Quote, "We're just starting," he said. "For obvious reasons, eBay is a public company, and there are all kinds of perverse financial incentives from the board to the management team. So there's only one way to approach something like this." I think he meant to say there isn't only one way to approach something like this. Anyway, that's the end of the quote. However, while the news might be a shock, Cohen had mentioned he would be going after a big company this past January, according to GameSpot, not to be confused with GameStop, though at the time he admitted his plan might not work. It's ultimately either going to be genius or totally, totally foolish. I think that the second option is the correct answer there, Jeeves. Yeah, so really, really ridiculous. I feel like if you're on Kalshi and I honestly tried to find it on my Kalshi the other day so I could put a little bit of money on this, but I feel like if you're on Kalshi, I am not a financial advisor, don't take my advice, but I would definitely not buy the whatever side it favors GameStop buying eBay. That just is so ridiculous. But yeah, there we go. That's what we got for that one. Let's talk. I think we got something on Engadget. Oh, there's more on the GameStop thing. So let's continue there. That's right. I got two articles on this because it's just bizarre. Update from yesterday. This is the Engadget story. So the story has been updated to reflect GameStop's submitted proposal on eBay on Monday. GameStop proposed eBay $125 per share, 50% cash, 50% GameStop common stock. So that's the other part of this is they're not raising the entire capital in cash. They're doing half of the capital in actual hard monies, and then they're doing the other half of the capital in common stock, and that's how they propose that they're going to get $125 per share. So really they're raising what is that, $70 per I'm sorry, $62.50 per share is what they're actually putting forward in cash, and the rest of it is going to be you get to keep stock options and then you can sell them off for more money theoretically in the future. So again, I really don't know if that, and this gets into a little bit more of the weeds as far as the numbers, it looks like. So we'll read a little bit deeper into this. But GameStop detailed in the proposal that it had approximately $9.4 billion in cash and liquid investments as of January 31st, and that GameStop's roughly 16,000 locations in the U.S. could give eBay a network for authentication, intake, fulfillment, and live commerce. I mean, if you think about it that way, it is very much intriguing because Amazon has been trying to figure out a way to get a brick and mortar in front of your face for years, like to the point where they've bought certain brick and mortar retailers, but it's always kind of fallen apart. The only one that's really worked out to any sort of successful degree is the Whole Foods situation, but I think that's more because the Whole Foods situation didn't really change when they got bought out. The only thing that changed is where the money went to. So I don't know. That's just it's an interesting thought because if you were an inexperienced seller, then theoretically you could just take your item that you wanted to sell on eBay to a GameStop store. GameStop would then help you list it, maybe. At the very least, they would store it until it sold, and then they would take care of the logistics of getting it to whoever bought it. So you would list it and then pay some sort of like management fee to GameStop, and then GameStop would take care of the rest of it for you. That's kind of interesting, honestly. GameStop's CEO Ryan Cohen also wrote that he would become the CEO of the combined company following the deal's closing in the offer letter, adding that he would be compensated solely based on the performance of the combined company. In response, eBay confirmed receipt of the unsolicited proposal, but clarified it had no discussions or outreach from GameStop before the submitted bid. The official offer followed a Wall Street Journal report on Friday that the GameStop was about to make an offer. Oh, Engadget, you had so much higher standards before. The Wall Street Journal noted that GameStop's market value sat at around $11 billion, while eBay towered over, they're $45 billion market value as of Friday's close of business. So ridiculous. It's important to note that Cohen could receive a $35 billion in stock. $35 billion in stock. Let's proofread our articles here, people. If he meets certain criteria, including increasing GameStop's market value to $100 billion, acquiring eBay could also be part of Cohen's plan to evolve GameStop beyond its reputation as a video games and collectibles retailer. However, the company has experienced plenty of ups and downs in recent history. This hopefully will elaborate the stonks situation better than I did. In 2022, GameStop attempted to build a marketplace for non-fungible tokens, aka NFTs, aka a big freaking scam. That ultimately shuttered a couple years later. More recently, GameStop announced its plans to pivot towards retro gaming at select locations, which has not gone over very well. There's plenty of videos. Go watch some Austin Evans. He's tried multiple times to get that to be a thing, and it just isn't going well for GameStop. Well, the company is still throwing ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks. It also closed down more than 400 retail locations across the U.S. earlier this year. So in 2026, it's closed down 400 locations. I really feel like they needed to proofread this article a little bit better. And then we're into a Nintendo Switch 2. So yeah, that's a little bit more light on the subject, but not by much. Very, very interesting. All right, so now we're really going to move on to another piece. Now let's talk about this, because this is kind of multiple areas of the nerddom kind of fused into one thing, right? So we have AI performances. I know it sounded like I said AR. AI performances and screenplays won't be eligible for Oscars. Don't know how you feel about GameStop buying eBay. Yeah, it's a little weird, right? All right, so this one's going to be interesting. It's from a few days ago. We probably could... Well, we didn't have time on the last stream. But anyway. So, this is about production companies using AI to replace actors and using AI to augment certain things about the filmmaking process. Apparently, if that happens, they will not be eligible for Oscars. So, we'll see what the details say, but I feel like that's not going to last very long if it does come out at all. So sorry, Val Kilmer fans, but the late actor's Oscar ship has officially sailed. On Friday, Reuters reported that AI-generated acting and writing won't be eligible for Academy Awards. The new rules from the Academy of Motion Picture and Arts and Sciences, will take effect beginning with next year's presentation scheduled for March of 2027. The Academy's updated rules state that while filmmakers can use AI tools, synthetic performers can't win any awards. Ditto for AI-written screenplays, which must be human-authored. The Academy can request more information from submissions to confirm that they were created by humans. All right. Let's get into the weeds on this one just a little bit. How in the hell... How are you going to prove that? How are you going to prove that somebody used AI to write a script? Like, from the very little bit that I've done with AI... It wouldn't... whichever screenwriter it was that submitted the script to the production company does not have to... I mean, we're talking about Hollywood people here, right? So there's no guarantee that they're going to be honest to begin with. Like, this is absolutely hinging on the idea that somebody's going to be honest with the fact that they used AI to write their script. That's not going to happen. So that's our big giant hole in this issue. But also, like, if they request more information, what information could they possibly request from the Academy, request from the production house? Like, what possible information could they get that would then clue them into the idea that this was written by an AI? Because again, if it was submitted to the production house by a person, and the person is at least halfway intelligent as to how to obscure very telling elements about AI writing, because there are definitely very telling elements of AI writing that are relatively easy to obfuscate, if not completely circumvent, when you have AI write things out for you. Like, I've seen plenty of video essays and how-tos on YouTube that it explicitly write this out for you and give you all of the tools you need in order to make this a thing. You tell it to avoid certain phrases because the AI uses certain phrases that normal people don't use very often all the time. So you just say, don't say this or don't use this. And that's a big part of what clues them in. So, like, if they run the script through an AI detector, I've also played around with running my own personal writings through AI detectors just to see what happens. And depending on the AI detector, sometimes it comes back completely clean if I wrote it with AI, and sometimes it comes back as like 50% AI if I wrote it without an AI. So like it's so inconsistent, and there's no. It's just going to get worse, I guess, is where I'm going with that. As the AIs progress in their abilities to write things closer to what sounds like human, the harder it's going to be to detect certain things like that. And if you put even a little bit of extra work into your writing, if you're running it through an AI, it's almost imperceivably undetectable. Like, that's an insane premise that we're just going to request more information and you're going to tell us that it was written by AI, right? That's how this works. No, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, continuing on. Academy's updated rules, filmmaker and synthetics before. Yeah, we just read that. Performance won't need further clarification. Is Val Kilmer's fully AI-generated appearance in the upcoming indie film As Deep as the Grave? The actor was initially cast in the movie, but had to back out due to medical concerns, and then he died April of 2025. Very, very sad. If you haven't watched the Val Kilmer documentary on Prime, I think is where it is. It might be on Netflix, but I'm pretty sure it's on Prime, called Val, that is narrated by his son. It's beautiful and amazing, and you absolutely should watch it. Continuing on. Although Kilmer never stepped foot on set, he will appear in a significant part of the movie, according to Variety. Quote, his family kept saying how important they thought the movie was and that Val really wanted to be a part of this, unquote, said Corte Voorhees. I don't know who Corte Voorhees is, but that's a hell of a first name. And a hell of a last name at that. Film's writer and director. Quote, he really thought it was an important story that he wanted his name on. It was that support that gave me the confidence to say, okay, let's do this. Despite the fact that some people might call it controversial, this is what Val wanted. I think I read somewhere, too, that his daughter fully backs this venture as well. Fully backs him being inserted via AI into this movie. So there's that. Perhaps even more jarring than the AI-generated likeness of a dead actor is the work of ByteDance tool that also has raised some alarm in the industry. A 2-sentence prompt using Seed Dance 2.0 was all it took to generate a highly convincing 15-second clip of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt duking it out on a rooftop. Come on, Pitt would totally kick his ass. 100% absolutely true. Cinematic clip went viral. Hollywood experienced existential panic, and Washington even weighed in. The latest, ByteDance reportedly paused the tool's rollout, while the entertainment industry braces for a future where typing a few words could be all it takes to churn out a feature film. If you watch Tim Pool with any regularity, then you will know that there is... his theory is, and I believe him to be very, very close to 100% accurate with the future of filmmaking, but his theory is that we're less than a decade away from Netflix and Disney and streaming services in general being just open-ended AI chats where you boot up the streaming service, quote-unquote streaming service at that point, boot up and you say, I want to see a movie where Spider-Man fights Mickey Mouse, and 5 minutes later the AI has generated a movie that has Spider-Man fighting Mickey Mouse, and that's all that we're going to have as far as new films are concerned after a certain point. I think that you hear these kinds of theories very regularly with the dystopian future types, the black pill types, if you will, based around the AI conversation. I choose to believe the slightly more optimistic version of that eventuality, because I think we are headed that direction, because it's just easier, because then companies don't have to pay people, they just have to maintain AI servers. And that's going to be cheaper than paying people in the long run by a long shot. So yeah, I think that's an eventuality. It's not exactly a what if scenario. It's a when. But I choose to believe the more upbeat version of that, which is I like to call it the Neil Stephenson future of things, because if you have ever read the book Diamond Age or A Young Lady's Illustrated Primer, then you will see that yes, this is something that has been written about since, I think that book came out in like 93 or something, but the concepts have been around in the science fiction genre for a long time. But the thing about Stevenson's version of that is, while the masses are going to do the mass consumption of the low quality AI slop, because it's going to be all they can afford, it's going to be all they know, it's going to be all they understand, what have you, whatever extenuating circumstances, there will still be a market. It will be very, very niche, and it will be probably much, much smaller than it is, but it'll be also much more fulfilling than it is. There will still be a market that is specifically looking for something that was made by people, that is handmade by an actual human person. And those things, as niche as they are going to be incredibly expensive, because they are 100% original. They're not just regurgitated slop from the AI. In Young Lady's Illustrated Primer, Diamond Age, whatever version of the title you want to use, that is like the elite class are the ones that make things by hand. They're the actual carpenters. Everybody else gets it's like the generators in Star Trek, where they generate the food and they do all the things just in an instant. That's kind of where Stevenson's future went in his books. And I like, it just makes sense that would be the way things are going to go. It just seems to track that we are in a place where the lowest common denominator are going to be the ones that set the standard, and anyone who wants something that's not generated by a machine is going to have to pay a premium for it, which is going to be a very difficult transition from where we are now to that point. But I think once we get to that point, it's going to be incredibly great for artists and artisans and craftsmen and stuff like that, because not only will you be able to charge a premium for your work, there's going to be a much smaller number of craftsmen and artists and so on and so forth. But the ones that do exist are going to be able to get away with this. Not only, though, are they going to be able to do that, but it is going to be their craft, their art, their whatever it is that they're making by hand that is going to maintain the lower rungs of society as well, because AI is only generative to a certain degree. It can only recreate things that it has seen before. And I feel like we're going to be a very, very long time before we can jump that hurdle, as it were, with the AI. Eventually it'll happen. Like, anyone who tells you AI is never going to be able to do this, yes, it will. Yeah, absolutely it will. Eventually it'll cross that path. Like Adam Neely over on his music channel. It was maybe about a year ago, maybe less than a year ago. He did a video essay about how AI will never be able to improvise. And while in a technical sense, he's kind of right in that it won't for a long, long time. Again, I do feel like eventually we will reach the point where AGI is a thing, and that general intelligence is going to be able to create something. We're a long ways away from true AGI. I think we are not that far away from an artificial AGI, which is a little redundant, I realize. But I mean, it's going to be not fully AGI in that it isn't actually creating anything new. it's just going to be combining things that it already knows into something that we perceive as something completely original, even though it technically isn't, right? So it's going to trick us into thinking it has reached general intelligence when it actually hasn't. And then another decade or two after that point is when it will actually hit AGI. But again, I'm rambling a little bit. Oh, and then I just lost my train of thought. AGI doing the things and the stuff and the going crazy. That would be hilarious to see Spider-Man versus Mickey Mouse. Yeah, absolutely agree. So for that middle period, for that window from where we reach the fake AGI to when AGI becomes an actual reality, again, I feel like that's going to be potentially the biggest jump from when AI became a common term in the conversation to when it hits the artificial AGI point, and then from there to actual AGI. Those two windows are going to be vastly different. I think the actual AGI is far, 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 far out. We will get there, but the Adam Neely thing. Before I finish the original thought, the Adam Neely thing. He said it will never be able to. It will never be able to improvise. It will be able to trick you into thinking it's improvising because it knows that you're playing in B flat, and if you're playing a 12-bar blues phrase, then it knows exactly where you're going next, and that knows all of these other ways that it has that people have improvised in the past because it has all of the internet at in its grasp. I guess you can't really call it fingertips, but so because it has all of that information and it knows what key you're playing in, and eventually it will know your habits, it can then reasonably guess what you're going to do next, which isn't exactly improvisation, but it is good enough at faking it that we can't tell the difference, right? So we'll get to that point. But the craftsmen and the artisans, back to the original point. Sorry, we birdwalked really hard there for a second. The craftsmen and the artisans and those types, when we get to the point of artificial AGI, those people are going to be what feeds the new art into the AI, in that they're going to be able to sell their stuff for exorbitant amounts of money, and those things are eventually going to find their way into the AI slop and, increase the quality of things in the long run. And it's just going to be super interesting. And I think I've kind of talked to myself in circles for long enough on this one. We can continue on. I don't give a shit about X's XChat app. Whatever. What else? We have some music stuff. Oh, crap. Oh, that's right. We should have done this in the last stream, and I forgot it was here, and then we ran out of time. So we're going to do it now. We have a bummer of a news piece coming up right now. It is the passing of a music legend. David Allan Coe died at 86. If you don't know who David Allan Coe is, there's a very interesting section of his musical history that maybe you want to avoid, but he's kind of a legend in the country music scene. Also, he did a record with Pantera after they had their breakup, and Phil Anselmo decided he wasn't going to be singing with the brothers anymore, or Rex. Phil Anselmo left, and they brought in David Allan Coe, and they did that Rebel Meets Rebel record, which is one of my favorite Pantera records, even though it's technically not Pantera, but it is, because it's Pantera with David Allan Coe on vocals instead of Phil Anselmo. So it's a great record. If you've never listened to it, you really, 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 really should. If you like either genre, metal or country, you're gonna dig the shit out of that record. But David Allan Coe passed at 86 last week. So we're going to read this in remembrance of Mr. David Allan Coe. April 30th, apparently, is when this happened. So it's been a little over a week. No, right about. I'm not going to get hung up on that. Country western outlaw musician David Allan Coe, who collaborated with Pantera members Vinnie Paul Abbott, Dimebag Darrell Abbott, and Rex Brown in a project called Rebel Meets Rebel more than 2 decades ago, has died. He was 86. Coe's wife, Kimberly Hastings Coe, confirmed his death in Rolling Stone magazine, saying, "One of the best singers, songwriters, and performers of our time and never to be forgotten. My husband, my friend, my confidant, and my life partner for many years. I'll never forget him, and I don't want anyone else to ever forget him either." A representative for Coe said the singer died in intensive care at around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, April 29th. Coe's musical treasure, representative said, adding that Coe appreciated all of the fans. Cause of death was not immediately released. Rebel Meets Rebel debut album was released May of 2006 via Vinnie Paul's Big Vin Records. Coe wrote all of the songs with Dimebag around 2000. A few years before the guitarist was murdered on stage in December of 2004. Yeah, I remember when Dimebag died, and like just everybody was mourning that forever. And then the release of that Rebel Meets Rebel record kind of like revitalized, gave us all hope again that good music can still exist, even though that was Dimebag that did that. Anyway, it was such an interesting time in heavy music. Quote, "From being from Texas, not only do we have rock roots, but we listen to country and blues," Vinny explained to MTV News in early 2000. "Before our shows, we'd play Jack Daniels If You Please off of one of Coe's CDs. We caught wind of it, and he went out to see him when he played Billy Bob's." That's a lot of words that kind of didn't need to be there. He was just a super cool dude. It was fun to check him out, and we hooked up with him a couple of our home videos, and he called us back a couple days later and just said, "Man, those fucking videos are incredible. I really dig what you guys do." He knows more about Pantera than I do now. That's awesome. Past friendship soon yielded a creative partnership. As Vinnie Paul explained, "We started hooking up and jamming, doing some tunes, and pretty unique. Some of them are just like an up-tempo thrash metal hoedown and country and western singer." Yep, for sure. Drummer said Rebel Meets Rebel CD was recorded over a 4-year period between 1999 and 2003 and contained a total of 12 tracks, including Nothing to Lose, which is a great track, Rebel Meets Rebel. I mean, they're all good. I just legitimately, from front to back, that is a fantastic record. I don't know that we necessarily need to go much more into this, though. If you've never listened to that album, you absolutely must. If you don't know David Allan Coe, he did. I think his biggest country tune was "Mama Tried." I could be wrong. It's been a little while since I've listened to anything extensive outside of that song, because I think that's just my favorite one. "Mama Tried" was a great tune. The Rebel Meets Rebel record was a phenomenal album. David Allan Coe was a legend, is a legend. And he definitely will be missed. So, there's that. Squirrel. Yep. Yeah, that happens. This is one that I've wanted to get into for a minute, but I just didn't. I haven't actually listened to this, so this is going to be really interesting to see. This is from a few days ago. Atreyu, if you know me at all, then you know that Atreyu for a long time was one of my top 10 bands. They have, since the falling out with their lead singer Alex, they've kind of dropped a little ways. I still love them. They're still great, just not as great as they once were. I've actually seen them twice since Alex has left the band, and it's just not the same. I saw them probably 3 or 4 times when Alex was in the band. So, the reason we're talking about that, their biggest record, their biggest release was an album called The Curse. That was their second label release. The first one being Suicide Notes and Butterfly Kisses. I love both of those albums, but easily The Curse is by far the better of the two, as far as just production and overall performance and everything involved. It was just a better record through and through. And it's kind of been the record that's kept them afloat, by and large, for a long time. So a couple years ago, I want to say it was about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, they re-recorded, maybe it wasn't quite that long ago, because how long has Alex been out of the band? I think it's been about that long. So it was shortly after Alex left. They re-recorded The Curse without Alex, with their new lineup situation. So we have two guitar players here. This is Big Dan and Mike. I can't remember the other guitar player's name right now. It'll be in the article, I'm sure. But this is Brandon. He was the drummer when Alex was in the band. Now he's the lead vocalist. He also sang when he was playing drums. This is the bass player whose name I'm also brain farting. I've met these dudes. Like, I've shook their hands. I've talked to them. I've had conversations. I can't think of their names. And they were one of my favorite bands for a long damn time. What is wrong with me? But this is their new drummer all the way here on the right. He does not do vocal duties. That falls on their bass player. Brandon does like the melodic, the singy stuff, and then their bass player does the screamy stuff, which is what Alex used to do when he was in the band. So very interesting change in the dynamics. But let's get into this article, shall we? So I can stop forgetting people's names. In a new interview with Rock 100.5, the Cat FM's Cameron Buchholz, whatever the hell that last name is, Atreyu frontman Brandon Saller spoke about the band's decision to release a new version of Atreyu's 2004 gold-certified sophomore album, The Curse. Oh, it was last year, so it was a year ago. The LP was entirely re-recorded with Memphis Mayfire's Kellen McGregor at the production helm, and it does not feature former Atreyu singer Alex Varkatzis, who exited the group in September of 2020. So yeah, he's been out for 6 years. Okay, I was remembering that timeline mostly correctly. Saller stated in the 2025 version of The Curse, there was motivating factors in doing that. One was we were going to go on tour, this album celebrating its 21st anniversary with this lineup. We want to be transparent, to be a transparent band and say, when you come to these shows, this is what it's gonna sound. Again, can we proofread our articles, please? There's a missing word right there. This is what it's gonna sound like. This is what it's gonna sound like. We find that to be incredibly honest, more so than probably most bands. That's so bogus. I'll get into my opinions on this in a minute. Secondly, this is the first album in our career that we've ever owned. Oh, interesting. I didn't know they didn't own the masters to Suicide Notes or Fractures in a Porcelain Facade, because that was their first EP. I really figured because they were on shitty like indie labels that they owned the rights to that. That's interesting. We've made it on our own. We released it on our own. We did the vinyl on our own. We own it 100%. So we're like, if you enjoy the new version of The Curse, then when you listen to it, 100% of the money comes back to the band that you love, rather than going on some record label that bought out our old record label. Good Lord, let's proofread this stuff, because we're talking in circles. Rather than going to some record label that bought out, oh, okay, I follow. Wow, okay. It just sounded like words at first. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I think when people really understand why we did it, they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. That makes sense, unquote. Let's continue reading, and then, again, we'll get into the details. We'll get into my opinion on the situation. Asked if it was, quote, a big process to get ownership of The Cursed. Oh, good Lord! You can't even get the name of the record correctly? What the hell? The Curse, no D, back to Atreyu, Brandon said, quote, we are lucky where we have 0 re-record clauses in any of our contracts. So we could re-record every one of our albums if we wanted to, which that might happen someday because of the sheer ownership. But it's one of those things where if you re-record the masters, then you own them. It's not exactly how that goes, but again, we'll get into that in just a second. Addressing the fact that Atreyu released Suicide Notes and Butterfly Kisses 2002, The Curse, and A Death Grip on Yesterday in 2006 with Victory Records, Brandon said, I would love the rights to those original albums back, but Victory doesn't even own them. Concord, who acquired Victory in 2019, owns them now. See, that makes a little bit more sense to the previous thing just a minute ago. Atreyu's new studio album, The End Is Not the End, came out on April 24th via Spine Farm, and it's not a bad record. It's better than I think the last one they put out. I feel like they're realizing that their audience really likes the heavy stuff, so they're starting to get a little bit back into the extra heavy. I don't think they'll ever be as heavy as they were, because I think Alex was a big motivating factor for that sound, and he's not in the band anymore. So anyway, produced by Matt Pauling, Atreyu's 10th LP's vibrant intent. Oh, and now we're just going to talk about The End Is Not the End, huh? And they're on tour with Seven Dust. Okay. Which that would actually be a pretty cool bill. Not gonna lie, Atreyu and Seven Dust. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, so my opinion on why I think they did this. Alex is an asshole. I don't think Brandon is lying. I think honestly that there is an element of like the Taylor Swift thing. When Taylor did her versions, it was by and large to disincentivize her fans or anyone from listening to the old recordings and only going to the new recordings, because that's, again, like I said, we'll get into the details of this. When you in your recording contract, if you don't have a no re-recording clause, like Brandon said they have in all of their contracts for all of their records, they could theoretically go back and redo all of their records if they wanted to. All that means is you own the new masters, which eventually will phase out the old masters, but the old masters still exist. So, to illustrate this version of The Curse, or even the Taylor songs, right? Taylor Swift, if you want to go that way. If you listen to, up on Spotify, you go to their page on Spotify, you're going to see 2 different listings for the same album. It will be, obviously, they'll show you the year that they were produced, that they came out, but by and large, it's going to say Atreyu, The Curse, what year was that? 2014? I think I was right. 2014, 2015, something like that. Does it say in here? Am I just not remembering what I literally just read? 2006. Oh, wow. I was way off. Anyway, so it'll say The Curse, 2006. And then it'll say The Curse, 2025. And that's the only visual difference. Obviously, the album art's going to probably be different as well. And it is. But that doesn't take away the original masters. Those original masters are still there. So if somebody chooses to listen to the Alex version of this record, that money is still going to Victory, or whoever it was that they said bought Victory Records. Where did it go? Concord. So that money's going to go to Concord Records. Your 1/10 of a cent that they get for that stream when you listen to one of the songs off of that record, that's going to be split between the band to a certain degree and then the record label, because they own the masters, right? So assuming they still have contracts, like, it's a very messy situation in the music industry, but that's how it's still the traditional split. If you listen to the original version of that record, if you listen to the new version of that record, that's when it goes exclusively to Atreyu, and it doesn't get split up and divided out amongst all the people involved. It just, Spotify takes their bit off the top, and then Atreyu gets all of the proceeds. Same thing with the Taylor stuff. If you listen to the old Taylor recordings, then that money goes to, I can't even remember the name of the producer she was trying to boycott by re-recording her records, but Dr. Something, I don't remember. So if you listen to the old versions of the Taylor recordings, that money goes to that dude. If you listen to the Taylor's version of those recordings, that goes to Taylor. Like, that's how that works. So when he says that they now own 100% of the masters, he's only kind of right. He's about halfway right, because there is still the other masters in existence. But also, back to why I think they did this. Yes, I think that is part of it. Yes, I do think that they wanted to phase out the popularity of those original masters because they don't make as much money off of them as they would like. That, I think, is smart business practice. The other side of that, though, I think potentially just as big of a motivator, maybe not quite as big, but pretty close to as big of a motivator, is their now very sour relationship with their former vocalist. Alex has made no bones about why he left that band, and he's been very, very toxic whenever it comes to that. I'm definitely exaggerating to prove the point. Maybe not very, very toxic, but he's not shy to say that, he fell out with those guys. They didn't want to make the heavy music he wanted to make anymore. They were going in different directions and, X, Y, and Z. So, I think that they were just tired of allowing him to take as much of the royalties from those records as they were getting, because he's no longer performing that music live. So they don't, and this is purely speculative, I don't know this explicitly, but I'm pretty sure when somebody is that vehemently angry with you in public, you want to stop paying them to do it. So I think that was probably a very close to equal motivating factor, as also it's nice to own the masters. We've had this conversation on the channel a couple of times before, like, when you get into the details, you always hear these artists talk about how they get screwed by Spotify. It's not Spotify explicitly that's screwing them. It's the fact that they don't own the masters to the music that is then put up onto Spotify. It's whoever owns the masters gets a decent chunk of their payment as well as them, and then Spotify gets their percentage off the top. So instead of splitting things 3 ways, they would rather split them 2 ways because then you make more money, right? So that's just smart business sense, like I said. You look at the fact that someone like Everlast, who has always, as far as I know, owned the masters, makes a good living off of the music that he put out in the 90s. Then you start to consider, well, maybe some of these artists who are crying about Spotify screwing them don't know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, I'm not here to hold Spotify's water either, because they definitely have some very shady business practices when it comes to paying artists, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. So yeah, I think that's very interesting. I just wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth, I guess. The camel's mouth? That's not how the saying goes. We talked about that. We might be coming to an end. Let's see. Nope, we talked about that. See if we can find some news at random. We haven't done this in a while on stream, actually. I stopped doing this because there's so much garbage in the entertainment news media that it just made for really boring streams. So we might just, let's see if comicbook.com has anything. I haven't looked at comicbook.com in about 2 months, so we'll see. Oh, hey, yay! Sweet, we did find something. I totally just saw this, and I didn't when I was doing my pre stuff, I didn't mark it. So I'm super glad it was on the front page. We have King of the Hill reboot. Season 2 is coming, and there's a Luann tribute. Hell yeah! All right, so let's read this, because if you didn't watch the reboot season, it was season 14, I think, that's on Hulu, you really should. It's great. It is updated in a very, very well done manner. I was looking for a better way to say that, but I couldn't find it. So it's very, very, very well done. Mike Judge is definitely doing the Lord's work with his King of the Hill stuff still to this day. If you haven't watched the original 13 seasons on Fox or wherever they live now, I think they're probably on Hulu too. Those are great. They are a little dated, but the update version is absolutely worth your time. It's so much fun. But again, the reason why we're reading this is because the actress who did the voice for Luann was Brittany Murphy. Since King of the Hill went off the air, sadly, Brittany Murphy has passed away. So now we're getting a tribute, because I think a lot of the fandom was asking for it. We're getting a tribute to Luann in season 2 of the reboot version of King of the Hill. So I'm super excited about this. Let's go. All right, King of the Hill is coming back for a new season of its revival series with Hulu later this summer. And it's teasing that fans will finally find out what happened to Luann with its new episodes. King of the Hill returned to Hulu with a new season of the animated series 15 years after the original ended its run, and revealed that Hank Hill and the rest of Ireland had been doing in the near 2 decades, because that's 15 years is over a decade, guys. Again, Let's proofread our articles, please, before we publish them, since the events of the final season. But there was no... Oh, okay. In the mythology, it's been a decade since we last saw these characters. In the real world, it's been over a decade. So I understand, but there was a better way of saying that. Anyway, but there was one glaring absence throughout all the fans wanted to see addressed. Luann, Lucky, and their child were major characters seen in the original King of the Hill series, but were completely absent in the first season of the Hulu revival. With King of the Hill Season 15 confirmed to be coming to the streaming service on July 20th, the first look at upcoming episodes are sneakily teasing a new tribute to Luann by highlighting one of her biggest episodes in the original run. the very least, we're going to see Big Tex make an appearance in the new episodes. Also, the voice of her husband, Lucky. Oh, man. Why am I brain farting who that was? Oh, good Lord. Come on now. I'm gonna go look it up because I'm pretty sure he's also passed. I think it was Tom Petty. I'm gonna double check that, but I'm pretty sure it was Tom Petty. Tom Petty's also passed away, obviously. Let's go. Ah, what the hell? I don't give a shit. Go away. Go away. King of the Hill. I want like give me season 15 or 12. Oh, good Lord. Come on, meow. We'll go. There we go. There we go. All right, I found something. Let's go here. And then we go here. This is a long way for a short drink of water. This is gonna piss me off, man. Talking about that dang old www.click.com, man. Yeah, it's maybe I just Google it. Let's just Google it. Let's just do the thing. I can remember how to spell Google. Google. King of the Hill, lucky voice actor. Tom Petty. I was right! Huzzah! I win! Yes, Tom Petty played Lucky. So not only Luann and Lucky both have passed away, sadly. So, appearance in new episodes. Here we go. Hidden in the trees in the first poster of King of the Hill Season 15 is Big Tex, which was first seen in the Season 8 episode, Girl, You'll Be a Giant Soon. This one was notable because it's an episode where Luann voice star Brittany Murphy won an Annie Award. What? Ah, come on, guys. This is such poor writing. This one was notable because it's an episode where Luann voice actor Brittany Murphy won an Annie Award for. That is not English. That is like English as a second language English. Come on, guys. But it's also one where Hank and Luann connect in a funny way. See, that makes sense. That is properly written. The first half of that is improperly written. It's far from the first most notable of these kinds of episodes where Hank and Luann bond, but it is an interesting route for Luann tribute to take, reminding Hank about this moment from his past. Big Tex is particularly an icon because the episode saw Luann climbing into the giant mascot's mouth, so seeing it included here, okay, again, this really awkward way of writing. So seeing it included here makes that connection stand out more. That's especially the case because showrunner Saladin K. Patterson had been teasing a tribute to Luann since before King of the Hill Revival premiered last year. We talked about the best way to honor Brittany Murphy and Tom Petty, the show and the fans as well. I don't want to give any spoilers, but we found opportunities to let them be referenced in a very respectful way that people are going to appreciate. But as fans discovered in that first season, no tribute actually happened. Biggest question surrounding Luann's absence from the King of the Hill Revival was thus far is how the show is going to handle her character moving forward. We've seen other characters recast following the original actor's passing, but Patterson had also previously teased Luann and Lucky will be retired instead. The analogy I use as a sports fan is sometimes the best way to honor someone's work is to hang their jersey up in the rafters as a show of respect and what they meant to the organization. That's appropriate, man. I think they probably would have done the same with Dale if the actor who played Dale hadn't died in the middle of recording and creating the season. Like, they already had stuff moving forward. They already had scripts. It was kind of too big to turn around at that point. So they were stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they had to keep moving forward. I think the same thing with John Redcorn. Actually, it's similar but different with John Redcorn because the voice actor for John Redcorn passed away after he had already finished work on the new season, and then he was tragically killed. We covered that when it happened. So I think if maybe John Redcorn might have been recast, I don't know, but I think if Dale's voice actor had passed away in the interim, they would have done the same thing as well. But again, too big to turn around at that point. Excuse me. I didn't. Blah, blah, blah. First day, new lips. I apologize. Didn't seem right to recast certain characters, the showrunner continued. I don't want to spoil anything, but we figured there are ways storytelling to honor those characters. This return from Big Tex would be a return to the festival setting, which also has been at the center of another Luann story, too, Season 5's The Perils of Polling, where she decides to be a communist. I love this show. It's so tied to Luann's history at this point, it would be strange for Hank and Peggy, maybe with Luann's daughter in tow, to visit the location without bringing her up at least once. Okay, again, wow, very poor word choices here. Where it's so tied to Luann's history at this point that it would be strange for Hank and Peggy to visit the location without bringing her up at least once. There we go. Sorry, that one was a little bit on me. So yeah, it seems that we're going to be making a return of some sort to Big Tex, which is this guy back here, and I'm here for it. I definitely want to see where they're going with this. That sounds like a whole hell of a lot of fun, man. What did I do? I don't know. What did you do, Mr. Bjorn Berkser? Or Berserk? I can read. Shush. Yeah, I really dug season 14. I think season 15 is going to be great too, and we'll finally get to that Luann and Lucky tribute, which is due. Like that's absolutely great. Okay, so we'll pull one more rabbit out of this hat real quick and see what we got. Daredevil Born Again Season 2 repeats Marvel's best post-credit chase, blah, blah, blah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles revealed the perfect way to start, blah, blah, blah. 7 coolest overpowered. This is why we don't do this. Wait, what? Oh, good lord. What have I missed? There was a... What? How did I not? Oh, because it was a big surprise. Okay, so here's something that wasn't on my radar, but definitely should have been. It should have been on a lot of people's radar, it seems. 6 biggest reveals from The Bear prequel, Gary, and what it teases about Season 5. There's a prequel for The Bear? Good lord. All right, FX and Hulu dropped a major surprise on TV fans today, being today. This article was written this evening even, 6:30 p.m. LA time, revealing a surprise prequel to The Bear that was quietly produced without much fanfare and has arrived with no prior announcement. As fans have been waiting anxiously for the impending 5th season of The Bear this summer, which, holy hell, what the hell are they going to do with Carmy in season 5? I'm dying to know. And whatever it truly marks the ending of the show, or whether it truly marks the ending of the show, this surprise has been a welcome one, starring Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the iconic character Richie, alongside John Barenthal as Mike Berzatto. The one episode Gary from The Bear team acts as a prequel to the main show and follows these two friends on a surprising journey. As one might expect from a prequel, though, something that The Bear has not shied away from I can read, shush. There's something that The Bear has not shied away from in the past with many episodes, like Season 2's Fishes, about the Berzatto family Christmas dinner, or Season 3's Napkins, about Tina's journey to the beef. There are revelations to be found. Though the story is clearly set at least 7 years before the events of the show itself, details about the characters' lives and even how they feel about others have become key parts of the show are confirmed in Gary. Among the reveals is at least one thing that connects to The Bear Season 5, though as such, spoilers will follow The Bear's Gary will follow. Yeah, so if you haven't seen Gary and you care about spoilers, then I'm sorry. 6, fills in the gaps in the story. In Season 4 finale of The Bear, after Richie learns that Carmy is leaving business behind, Ladder reveals to him that he actually went to Mikey's funeral, something he previously kept a secret, in which prompts a charged reaction from Richie, reflecting not only on his friend's death by suicide, but the circumstances of his attending his funeral is a rough subject for Richie, who reveals how he tried to help Mikey, lamenting that he, quote, failed, unquote. Richie goes on to tell a story about a road trip once took with Mikey, noting that for half an hour it felt perfect, like it was as good as life gets, which Richie reveals is what he assumed Carmy's life felt like all the time. This episode is that road trip. That's freaking cool. I dig that a lot. Number 5, who named Richie and Tiffany's baby? As noted, Gary is a standalone episode all about Ebon Moss-Bacharach's Richie and John Barenthal's Mikey Berzato. The pair have been given a task by Uncle Jimmy to deliver a taped-up box to someone in Gary, Indiana. When the episode begins, though, as a means of telling us where this is the time frame of the bear, we see that Richie is still married to Tiffany, Jillian Jacobs. Not only that, but she's visibly pregnant with their daughter. This, of course, spurs conversation between Mikey and Richie about the arrival of the child, with Richie asking Michael about potential names. At first, Mikey shrugs off the name Annie, and then offers an alternative, Althea, which Richie disapproves of because the potential it might have in making fun of the kid. Mikey then has another suggestion, Eva, which Mikey appears to fire off as a text to Tiffany. As the Bear fans know, this is what Richie's daughter is eventually named. Richie and Mikey's fraught relationship. Throughout the Bear, the shadow of Mikey looms large around everything in the series, but hangs especially over Richie due to their friendship and years of working together. What Gary reveals is that in addition to being very close personally, the pair also had a relationship that was tested. By the end of Gary, Mikey is not only drunk, but high on drugs, and then delivers a monologue to an entire bar that's incredibly complimentary about Richie. At first, at least. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to watching this. In the end, Mikey's observation about his best friend Richie stopped being a toast about how healthy and happy his friend is, and to then telling Richie that he should just leave town and stay out of his child's life. He's definitely going to fuck it up too. Even adding, everyone knows it. As one might expect, the exchange results in fisticuffs with Richie and Mikey multiple times before eventually leaving the bar without addressing the conversation. Number 3, Mikey's feelings about his mom. Tender moment in a bathroom stall. Mikey opens up a stranger, Marin Ireland, Sarah. I don't know. I don't know what that is. About not only how the world perceives him. They say I don't finish things, but also the relationship with his mother, Jamie Lee Curtis's Donna Berzato. As Mikey tells it, as a kid, his mother would come into his room, scratch his back, and tell him every detail about what their day was going to be like tomorrow. He laments that it impressed him to put him at ease, in part because it made him feel like his mother had planned his whole day. Mikey goes on to reveal that eventually, when he asked Donna to tell him about his next day, she'd snap at him. Seeing that sudden transformation of his mother broke Mikey in a way, though, and shows that the fractured foundations of the Berzato family were felt in every character. He goes on to note his feelings about sadness and depression, which he doesn't have the words for, but all of which set up his eventual death by suicide. Yep. Why Richie and Tiffany got divorced. All right, we're not going to read all of these. Final scene. All right, this it's unclear. Here we go. Final moments, Gary appeared to leap ahead in time, revealing Richie in a car and on his own, reflecting his relationship with... That's not right. Reflecting on his relationship with Mikey, maybe, as he looks at the empty car seat next to him. As the rain patters down, though, a car behind him beeps its horn, prompting Richie to move ahead into traffic, only for his car to be surprise hit by another vehicle. The episode cuts to black immediately and ends. It's unclear if this moment is supposed to be set before the events of Bear Season 5, perhaps implying that Richie might be hospitalized or immobile when the episodes start, or will it happen later in the season itself and was revealed in Gary as a tease for what's to come. Time will tell. Bear won't return to Season 5 until this summer, so for now we have to linger on the cliffhanger. Interesting. Definitely going to be watching this in the next couple of days, for sure. Super stoked for it. Love the Bear. Love Ebon Moss-Bacharach's Richie, too. Just a hell of an actor, that guy. Really, really love him. All right. I think instead of trying to dig, well, we'll dig one more. We'll go to do some music. We'll dig a music one. See if we can do that. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. Snot. Sheer Terror. Fear Factory. Fear Factory claims to be launching their first single with their new vocalist soon. That will be great. Or intriguing, at least, because I really want to hear what that kid sounds like. All we've had so far is like really crappy live recordings, so you can't really tell. Slayer's Tamarai delivers. Drivers, start your engines! Ultra D's Mike Ness. We plan to shock everybody and put out another studio album. I don't care. Original Saliva singer Josie Scott confirms stolen trailer has been recovered and all gear has been returned intact. Congratulations. David Lee Roth performs in Austin. That's cool. Napalm Death guitarist Mitch Harris launches Tour Flip, new platform helping bands get booked and fans. Oh, let's read that because that's good news in the music industry. Let's go, baby. Come on, open up. Open up. All right. Longtime Napalm Death guitarist Mitch Harris has launched a crowdfunding campaign for Tour Flip, new marketplace he designed and built to help bands get booked worldwide, get paid, and help sustain the rising cost of touring. We have talked about this a lot on the channel because it is effectively putting a lot of great bands out of work because they can't afford. They can sell records, all right. They can get streams. They can get people to listen to them, but they just can't afford the logistics of going from city to city over an extended period of time, aka touring. So, continuing on with the article. After 25 years of live shows on the road, Harris built Tour Flip to make the process more efficient and profitable for all players. Bands receive direct booking offers from global promoters. Fans pay face value for tickets with no service fees added on top when promoters and venues sell tickets directly through Tour Flip. Tour Flip also surfaces inventory from major ticketing partners with the platform's fee-free promise applying to direct ticketing only. Promoters, venues, festivals, and crews all work directly through the platform. That's awesome. If you can get enough promoters and venues to get on the platform, you will definitely have plenty of artists who want in on the action. That's freaking cool. Streaming killed album income. Bands take home maybe 20% of what they actually earn. See, this is what we were talking about a minute ago. Streaming did not kill album income. Record labels killed. The record label has been the issue the entire time. Like, yes, we have another issue on top of the main issue, but that does not negate the main issue, and that is the record companies. They are always the ones that were trying to screw artists. That has been the history of the music industry. Anyway, fans pay more than ever for less than ever. That is not incorrect. Also, I think another thing that's really killing modern music industry, modern touring industry, is venues trying to get in on the action. So not only do you have the record label taking a percentage of merchandise sales, which only makes sense. That on the surface it sounds kind of dumb, but there is a regular scenario where the record label has put forward money for said merchandise in which they want to recoup their loss and probably make some money back off of said merchandise. So that makes sense. But if the merchandise was put up exclusively by the band, which happens fairly regularly as well, and the record label had nothing to do with it, then the record label should not have rights to said merchandise. But they take it anyway. They take like 20% of merchandise sales when the band's on tour. It's insane. Depends on the band, it depends on the contract. Not all contracts are the same, but that is not an uncommon scenario where the record label takes tour money from merchandise sales. It's stupid. Also, on top of that, you have venues getting in on merchandise percentages as well. We've talked about this kind of ad nauseum to a certain degree. It makes sense if the venue is putting forth some sort of effort to help sell the merchandise, which larger venues do. They offer that as a service. They have a staff that will man the merch booth for the band. They just expect a compensation for their staff and then a little bit for the venue off the top. That makes a little bit of sense. It makes a much more sense in those situations for the band to have somebody run their merch for them. But even then, venues take a percentage of merch sells as well. So before the band even can recoup their cost, because presumably this is why merchandise at concerts costs so much money. So let's do this math, right? So it costs me, we'll use my merch as go check out Generally Nerdy store, linked in the description. It cost me about $6 to $8 or so just for the cost of the shirt. It's all print on demand, so it actually might be a little bit more than that. Either way, that's the raw goods to make these shirts. It's about $8 to $10. We'll say $10. So the raw goods to make the shirt is about $10. The print-on-demand service, because print-on-demand is the most expensive way to do merchandise, they have a fee that they then charge as well. They also maintain my storefront for me, so there's another fee on top of it. That's why these t-shirts are not the cheapest things in the world. I do apologize. I cannot do it on my own, though, so I can't bring that cost down just yet. That is the goal. I will bring the cost down eventually, but as it stands right now, that's the way it goes, right? So if you're a band, you have similar hurdles in merchandise creation. You may create the art, in which case you don't have to pay an artist, but if you do have to pay an artist, you have the artist fee, you have the merchandising fee, so like the actual cost of the physical shirt, then you have the printing fee, and printing fees are multi-tiered fees as well, because depending on how you do it, generally they don't do print on demand, they do in bulk, right? So you have the fee to create the template, and then the actual fee of taking the template and putting it onto the physical merchandise is another fee. So you've already amassed $30 per shirt, right? So in order to make any money, you would need to sell these shirts at approximately, we'll say $20. We'll be kind and say $20 just to make anything off of this shirt, and probably very little at that. Then you throw in record label taking a percentage of this and the venue taking a percentage of this. So if the band wants to make any money at all, they have to sell you a freaking t-shirt for $40 at the show, because that's the only way they're going to get gas to get to the next city, right? So that's why merch at shows is the best way to pay the band directly. Hopefully they have a better contract, so they're making a bigger percentage of that merch sale. But either way, even if they have a shitty contract, that's still going to be the gas that gets them to the next show, especially smaller bands, especially the kind of bands I go see. Like, I have a lot of band shirts because I go to a lot of shows, and I try and buy at least a t-shirt at every show I go to, because I like to support the music I enjoy. And that's the best way to do it, because everybody has a crap contract with their record label that put them up on Spotify, and we've just covered that. So if you're ever complaining about, the cost of a t-shirt, that's how these guys go on tour. So that's what makes it very difficult for them to stay on tour, because as those costs increase, they have to increase what they sell their merchandise for in order for them to make a living. And as that increase, they sell less merchandise because people don't have that kind of money to buy a t-shirt. It's how the economy works, man. So this tour flip thing is kind of brilliant on the face, because you're minimizing, you're not eliminating, but you're minimizing the effect that venues and record labels have on ticket sales, and that's freaking awesome. Continuing on, platform also includes marketplace for bands to sell merch, sweet, and services direct to their event-driven community, plus a native social feed where bands and fans can engage and earn from co-promoting shows, including $15 per hour for street team flyer posting. That's cool. I want to give these guys money. That's really, really cool. Harris designed TourFlip to manage complex offers remotely. He says investors and labels never saw the problem the way the touring community does, and that bands rarely get to see the amount of show offers outside of standard tours with nightmare routing. Yeah, oh boy. That's one part of the music industry that if I ever get to the point where I'm actually touring, I'm not looking forward to, just the crazy amounts of road trips you're on. Investors don't care. Labels don't care. They never have, Harris says, but bands do. Crews do. Fans do. The community that built this culture, I'm asking for their support to get Tour Flip across the finish line. Crowdfunding campaign is live, tourflip.com. Contributors receive a permanent funding supporter badge when the platform launches this summer. Contributions of $100 or more unlock a gold badge plus 6 months of Tour Flip Premium. Tour Flip is expected to launch summer of 2026. Harris took a leave of absence from Napalm Death in late 2014 to focus on his family. He has remained active in the music scene, including performance with the grindcore group Earthburner. It sounds vaguely familiar. I don't recognize it offhand, though. Before joining Napalm Death, Mitch Harris was a member of the grindcore band Righteous Pigs. He left that group shortly after forming a side project called Defecation with Mick Harris, then of Napalm. Mitch Harris and Mick Harris? Oh, good lord. Mitch joined Napalm Death in 89 and has made his recording debut with the band in the album Harmony Corruption. That's really cool. Go give money to Tour Flip. That's super, super cool. I really hope that does well. All right, it is 11 o'clock p.m. local time there, nerds. I think we are going to have to call this a stream. Thank you very much. What flavor is my drink? This is strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper is what I'm drinking this evening. This is the best one. The cream soda is also really, really good, but this is my favorite. And cream soda is a very, very close second. And then the coconut is a pretty close third as well. Anyway, so let's get to the proper screen, shall we? Thank you very much, nerds. Once again, if you want to get your Phantom Nerd, Music Nerd shirt, then go check out the link in the description. Super excited to still be offering this, even though, again, it is a little expensive. I realize. Very, very proud of all of the merchandise up on the Nerd store. Go check it out. Go get yourself some nerdy merchandise. There's stickers, there's coffee mugs, there's travel mugs, there's all kinds of fun stuff with all of the generally nerdy iconography all over it. Go check that out. Also, if you have not yet, then you absolutely owe it to yourself, if you are a pursuer of all things caffeinated, to try DUBBY. DUBBY.gg is the website. Code Generally Nerdy at checkout is the code that will get you 10% off of your entire cart every time you purchase. It's not just a one-time thing. Every time you go get some caffeine from DUBBY, use code Generally Nerdy, you get 10% off. I get a little bit of a kickback. DUBBY sells some merch. You get some awesome s'mores flavored energy drinks. And I know there's at least one person in the chat right now that has tried the s'mores energy drink and thinks that it is dangerously good, just like I do. I freaking love that stuff. It's hard to keep tubs full around here, so absolutely go check out dubby.gg and get yourself some awesome energy drinks. Also try the Tiger's Blood. Big fan of that one too. That is channel sponsor. That is the merch in the store. That's all of the obligations we have, nerds. We will see you again hopefully in a few days. I really don't know. It might be a very late stream. It's just gonna be crazy. Yeah, I will do my best to keep you updated. Look forward to clips and things. Like I said, we will be doing a proper Mortal Kombat review. So yes, we will be back in a few days, if for nothing else than the Mortal Kombat review. I appreciate your faces, nerds. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.